The time is at hand.
From the land of crackheads and honey in Williamson, West Virginia, this is In Dark Places, Dogman Encounters. I was with a friend in her truck, and we were driving home on a winding mountain road in the western North Carolina Appalachians. There were no streetlights, and it was pitch dark. We noticed another truck heading toward us suddenly swerve into our lane. My friend hit the brakes and laid on the horn. The truck creeped back over. We were a bit shaken and slowly began moving forward. It was then that we saw the other truck had veered into our lane. It was then that we saw why the other truck had veered into our lane. There was a huge deer carcass in the road, and crouched over it was a gigantic animal. As we drove very slowly, our friend put on her brights. What looked like a gargantuan wolf was bent over the carcass eating. It had long front legs with little fur on them. I've worked with wolves and had never seen one this huge. It suddenly looked up at our truck, and the headlights caught it fully. Black fur, muscular forearms, and golden/orange eyes that looked eerily human. I remember we both made gasping noises. My friend kept driving, and then we turned and looked at each other, and we both said, "That was a werewolf." She was not at all a person who believed in any sort of supernatural stuff. We drove the rest of the way home in silence. We only spoke about it one other time after that, and it was to compare what we had seen. At the time I had no idea about Dogman, and I forgot all about it until 2 years later when one showed up in my backyard. So my second Dogman encounter happened 2 years after the first one. I had bought a house down in the mountains in a quite established neighborhood, within walking distance from the town center. After moving in, I was adopted by a cat. She was dumped by one of the neighbors, and even though I'd never had a cat, I love animals. She had been outside her whole life, 12 years at the time, so I was slowly introducing her to a hybrid indoor-outdoor life. It was October, and it had gotten chilly, so I would bring her in at night before I went to bed. She was usually waiting on the back porch to be let in. I flipped on the porch light and stepped outside. You know how you can experience a flurry of events in seconds, but it feels like it's in slow motion? It was like another part of me was watching what I was doing in slow motion playback. And this is what happened. I felt something supernatural before I saw it. The feeling is undeniable and consistent for me. Like I'm on that gravity drop ride at a carnival. The top of my head feels like a hive of bees is on it, and I am instantly and totally present. There was a gigantic black animal in the backyard. My back porch is up off the ground, with about 5 steps down. So I was seeing this from a higher vantage point. My first thought was bear, because I chased black bears out of my yard on occasion, but never the backyard. And this was bigger than a bear. It had jet black fur and was snuffling loudly on the ground as if trying to pick up a scent. The cat was not on the porch, and I wondered if this animal had snatched her. So anger boiled up in me pretty fast. Again, it all happened in seconds. So I yelled, "Hey," and scared this thing. It yelped in surprise and spun to take off. It was so big and so fast, I heard its back paw tear out a big clump of grass as it took off. It was impossibly, ridiculously fast. And if you have ever seen a bear run, they can run quick, but they kind of wobble and bounce when running. This thing took off in a streak. I was not thinking anything other than find the cat. So I ran into the house, threw it, and burst out the front door yelling, "If you kill my cat, I will strangle you with my hands." I saw it dive behind a row of hedges across the street. I caught the tail end of it, and it was a long, bushy tail. I stood in my front yard, still not registering that this was a gigantic animal that could easily kill me. It poked its head halfway around the hedge to peek at me, and it looked exactly like a wolf, and then it took off again. I was frantically running around the house calling for my cat, and she was nowhere to be seen. I got in my car and drove around the neighborhood looking for her, and figuring if I saw this thing, I could report it. When I got home, the neighbor's dog was outside in the fenced yard. It was right near the spot the wolf had been in my yard. He started pawing at the ground, digging and howling. I had never seen him behave that way. I kept circling the house looking for my cat. I was standing out front when she came into the yard from the neighbors. She walked up to me and looked terrified. Buff fur, huge eyes. I picked her up. At that point, she wasn't into being held, and she locked her paws around my neck and clung on to me for 10 minutes, shaking. She has never done it before. And I had witnessed her casually hanging out 10 feet from a giant male bear before. I didn't go to sleep that night, and instead of thinking about the thing me and my friend saw on the road that night 2 years before, I started searching werewolf and going back down rabbit holes. I posted it on a neighborhood forum, and a guy commented, "Thank God I'm not crazy. That thing passed in front of my car a few nights ago at 2:30 in the morning, and it was so big I thought I was hallucinating." I eventually found Dogman, and even had a pre-interview with Vic. That's from Dogman Radio. Check him out. I kept having dreams that I should not go, and that the wolf would come back if I talked about it. I was spooked. I decided to go through with it, but Vic spaced the appointment, which I gather is unusual for him. So I saw it as a sign to just not share the story on his show. Thankfully, I have never seen it again, but I will never forget the bizarre energy that surrounded this being and how it affected me. And that's about all the Dogman Encounters I've got for you for right now. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next time. God bless.